Okay, hello class. As you're watching this, I will be at an academic conference in Miami, so I'll be sending warm thoughts your way. If things go well at my conference, I'll make sure to bring something back for all of you. Today's lecture is going to be a brief overview of some other things you can do in Dreamweaver with CSS. This lecture will only make sense if you were in class on Wednesday. It's kind of an extension of what we were working on and to show you a number of different options. If you take a look at what I'm working with right now is the same web page that you worked with in class today. And here's the code behind it. Here's the live view. What I'm going to do is show you how to create an external CSS sheet. As we mentioned in class today, this is usually the optimal way to do things. Simply because I can make a change in my CSS and apply it to every web page. I can make one change and it's going to apply to everything. So there's a couple of different ways we can do this. This is the easiest way to do it. We can attach an existing one if we've already made one. We can create a new one. In this example, I've already created one for you, so I'm going to go to the attach option here, and we get this window here that Dreamweaver wants to know where our CSS file is. So I've got a CSS folder here in which I've put styles. And I'm going to hit OK here. I'm going to hit OK. And wow, look, the styles automatically loaded. Now, the great thing about these styles, or the attaching the CSS, is that Dreamweaver does all the code for you. If you notice, it's inserted the link, href, and all the information about the style sheet right there. The other thing about CSS is that once you've attached it to an HTML page, in this case I've attached it to this page, my CSS selectors page, which was the example we worked with in class today, the CSS is available right here. It's right next to your code. So I can click on this and I can make changes or whatever I want. So maybe I want to change the font to Courier. I go back to my website and now the font is in Handy Courier. Okay? Now I'm going to show you why it's beneficial to have the one page. That's an example. And this page has no styling on it. Right? We just have a header and a paragraph. But if I want to link that to the same CSS sheet that I linked this page to, which is the styles.css, I can do what we just did before. I go up to CSS Designer, Sources, Attach Existing File. I'm going to use the same CSS that I just used before, the styles one right here. Click OK. Click OK. And it's attached the same CSS. Go back to the code. Look, there it is. Link, href, the style sheet. It's even right there. It's the same one that I am using here. Same CSS, same file. And once again, wherever I make changes, if I want to change the color or add another selector here, I can. We'll add a selector for the paragraph. Notice how it generated it. We'll do font size. Make that 10 megapixels. Now look, it's smaller. But it changed it not just in this HTML page, but my other page here. This is also that 10 megapixels. Now, this is how you attach an existing CSS, one that either you've downloaded, the website that we used before, the templated.co, you can get CSS documents from there. Let me show you how to do that. This is similar to when we downloaded HTML pages, but they also have CSS codes here. Here's a CSS one. This is going to give you more options. It's going to be a little bit more complicated. If you just want to make your own CSS file, a couple ways you can do that. you can use the method we've been having here and go to create new CSS file. We'll have to put it somewhere. I suggest that on your website folder you create a folder called CSS. So you probably already have an images folder. You might have other folders that help organize your website, but I would make sure you create a CSS file. And if you're going to make a new styles template, this one I'm just going to call styles 2. You tell the browser where it's going to be stored. Click OK. And now you can start making additions to it by using the selector rule down here like we worked in class today. You can also just go up here to File, create new CSS, right? Create. There it is. Now, much like with the HTML, the first thing you're going to want to do is save this, right? And we kind of follow the same steps that we just saved. You should have a CSS folder now, or you should create a CSS folder within your website where you can save CSS. This one I'll call Styles 3. It's getting a little complicated here, but Styles 3. Now, if I wanted to attach that to a page, I would just follow the steps I just followed with attaching the other document. Attach existing CSS, navigate to where it is, put it in there. So that's how you create one overarching CSS file that can apply to every element of your website, every part of your website. The last thing I want to show you is all the options that Dreamweaver gives you once you've created a rule. Now, in my CSS here, I have a rule for H1, okay? I've created the rule, I've applied the color. I'm just going to change this to white so it makes sense for you guys. So in this case, I have the color white for my header 1, right? The potatoes have turned white. So we can click on live mode and your properties tag at the bottom. This is what you've worked with in the past, right? You've been able to set different things for your elements. You know, you can select it and make it bold and make it italics. You can make a link out of it. You can align it differently. You've probably seen the other option down here, which is the CSS option. You can go ahead and click on that now, and you can do different things to change your rules as long as you've already created one. Now, I've already created that H1. We have a rule. I can click on Edit Rule. Wow, look at all these things I can do. Here's all my options for the font family. Here's all my options for font size. Here's all my options for font style. I can also go in and change the background. So if I want the background behind potatoes to turn to be black, I can do that. Let's go with a nice shade of black here. If I want to make an image show up behind the background, I can do that here. Browse my computer, find an image. Hopefully it's in my images folder. I think that I stored one in my images. Here we go, images folder. There's that garden from before that we worked with today. So I can put that in there. I would primarily concern yourself with the options available in type and the options available in background. A lot of these other ones give you a ton of options, great borders for it. I wouldn't worry too much about it. The only other one that you might want to deal with is positioning, where I can set alignment, I can make it I can change the visibility, and I can change the alignment. We covered that earlier in the semester for some elements, but you can also do it in CSS. So hit OK. Oh, now I can't see it because it's white. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to change that header color back to black. You notice that there are some colors that you can type in that Dreamweaver will recognize. You know, it's going to recognize black. It's going to recognize blue. It's going to recognize all your primary colors. But there are a lot of colors, there are a lot of degrees of colors that Dreamweaver won't recognize, and I can't just type it in here. Now, I can use the set color functionality here. But the best way to determine colors is with your hex color code, which Dreamweaver is already setting me up for. You can move this around, you're going to get different symbols for colors. You know, here's all my colors of the rainbow that I can choose from, and then choose different hues and saturation. I don't know. I think that gets kind of complicated. The best way to do it is to use a website called color/hex.com. And color/hex.com will give you the hex codes for a bunch of different shades of colors. Okay? And there are a number of different ways in which you can sort the website. So if I want to search for colors that are black, I can get straight black code, which is the easiest one always. It's always hashtag and then 6 zeros. But then I can get different degrees of black. So if I want a lighter black, it's hashtag 191919. Other colors of black here. Same thing I can do if I want red, but I don't really want a bright red. I want a in-between red. I can just get red, which is hashtag FF and 4 zeros. Or I can see some different other degrees of red all the way up into black, which is the absence of red. It also gives me different tints. I would really encourage you to use this website to determine colors for your website. So if you like this shade of red, maybe for your paragraph, you can go ahead and copy that, go back to Dreamweaver, and we'll change our paragraph property here, color, type in or copy in the hex code there, and there's my new color in the CSS sheet. We can also do that down here since we've given the paragraph here a rule. Since we've already selected it and put it in here, we can make changes to it. Now keep in mind, if we add something new, if we add, say, we're going to add another section in the body here. Oops, I'm in design mode, so it's not giving me. I'm in design mode here. So I decide to add in a new heading, H2, and how to make mashed potatoes. Right? We all like mashed potatoes. And I click on it to make changes to the CSS, make changes to the way it's displayed. It's got H2, but look at the body rule here. It's stuck on body, right? It doesn't have a rule just for H2. If I edit this rule, it's going to edit everything in the body. So the first thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to make a rule for this element, just like we did in class today. So we would just plus H2, there it is. And now we have a rule for it. We can add whatever we want. We'll do font, family, courier for it's like the rest of the page. Whoa, did you see that? See how this changed? Now if I want to edit that rule, I can do so right here. And now I have all my fonts, font sizes. You can do it over here, but it's much easier to do it with this option. I'm going to get rid of this background because I don't like it. It's making it hard to see what I'm doing. So I got rid of that background there. The last option I wanted to show you is the ability to make changes to just one page. If for some reason you just want to change the CSS on one page, make sure you're not clicking on an element. Make sure you're outside of the elements here, probably in design mode. You do have an option in the HTML here to change the page properties. Now, if you make changes in the page properties, it will override anything that the CSS is doing. The last thing I wanted to point out again is what we did in class today is if you want to insert make French fries. What else is made with potatoes? How to make potato chips? Oops, I didn't do a header here. What else is made with potatoes? Potato chips. Now in this case, the CSS is applying this H2 rule of the courier font to everything with the H2 header. But it's quite possible that I don't want that I want some of my headers to be different colors. You can do that pretty easily by changing the ID of the headers. So this is still H2, but maybe I want to call this something different. I'll call it purple. Still going to pull it out of the CSS sheet. And look, it auto-generated my selector over here. So if I wanted a different color, if I wanted different options for that, I could change it over here, and it's only going to apply to the H2 purple header. Do you see how that connects? And then if I wanted to make changes later on, maybe at some point I do decide that I want this header here to share those same features, I can change this to purple. If I could spell purple correctly. I could change this to purple, and it's going to apply the elements to it. See, it even auto-generated a purple code there. But again, I can make changes to that in any way that I want. If I wanted those to be Arial, why is it font? Family. And again, if I want to make changes, I can click on the element. In this case, I've clicked on the H2 element, go to CSS, there's the purple rule, click on Edit Rule. Again, if you want to have this option available to you, you first have to create a rule for that element. Okay? If this wasn't here, if I didn't have a rule already created for purple or for H2, this option to edit would not be available to me. All right, if you watched this far, I'm going to give you the answer to one of the bonus questions on the test. The greatest Atlanta Braves third baseman of all time is Chipper Jones. Your reminder for you is that your quiz is on Friday, opens at 12:01 a.m., closes at 11:59 p.m. Once again, on Monday, I will not be in class. I will not be there. You should be working on your websites. Make sure to go on Encores and submit your, not Encores, Blackboard has closed out, but make sure to submit on Blackboard your screenshot of your website by the end of Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.